For many, the dream of growing a family involves scientific intervention like IVF. But one rarely anticipated dilemma is what to do with unused embryos. There is a unique organization that offers a solution. Let's welcome Beth Button, Vice President of Snowflakes Embryo Adoption Program, a division of Nightlight Christian Adoptions. Glad you've joined us today.
Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so, I never heard of your program until a friend had told me about it. And maybe you could tell our viewers what embryo adoption is.
Sure. So, as you mentioned, when families have done in vitro fertilization, it's pretty common to have embryos remaining that they are not going to use to continue building their family. And we had actually began a program in 1997 was when we started the Snowflakes program. And the effort was to allow an option for these families who have the remaining embryos to choose another family to adopt the embryos, to give them the chance to be born. It is actually the only life affirming option that people have when they have these remaining embryos.
Right, right. And snowflakes, of course, because these embryos are cryogenically frozen indefinitely.
Right.
And oftentimes when one enters into the IVF process, particularly around age 35, you have about 8 embryos. That's kind of like an average number, right? So if we figure that maybe a couple of the pregnancies are not viable and then you end up having 2 healthy babies, well, that still leaves a few left over. And so that remains this dilemma: what do you do? And what would the other options be if you didn't give these embryos up for adoption through, say, snowflakes?
Right. So the options basically are they can choose to just discard the embryos, which of course we don't want to see. They can donate them for use in research. It actually has been not as useful as you might have heard years ago. Embryonic stem cell research was kind of
Heard that a
a term
lot.
that was thrown around.
Yes.
Turns out that these cells were not really as useful as scientists thought they would be. So now, when people are donating to science, typically what they're doing is just allowing them to be used for practice. So, for practice embryo transfers. So, obviously, that also leads to the destruction of the embryos.
Right,
And then the other thing they can do is just continue to store them indefinitely. Most clinics have an annual storage fee. They can store them at their clinic, or they can send them to an off-site cryo storage facility. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of people end up doing because they have just such a difficult time making the decision. And then there are also those that are just abandoned, where the patient doesn't continue paying the storage fee, but the clinic or storage facility is hesitant to discard those. So embryo adoption is really a great option for those who want to see these embryos have a chance to be born.
And Beth, with just a few seconds left, what is the process for adopting and placing these embryos?
Yeah, so we have an inquiry team. So anytime someone inquires about the program, whether it's an adopting family or a placing family, we have an inquiry specialist that will talk with them, answer any questions that they have. And then once they're ready to apply, there is a formal application. And, for adopting families, we are an adoption agency and we treat these embryos as children. And we do require a home study or similar evaluation before this family is able to be matched with embryos.
Very good.
And then the placing families, there is no cost to them. There is obviously some paperwork that we need to gather from them, and we're also gathering information on the embryos themselves from the clinic, where the embryos are stored or where they were created.
Right.
And once we have that information, then they're able to enter the matching process as well.
Okay, very good. Beth Button, thank you so much for joining and sharing with us. Great organization.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We'll be back after this.